I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
Hey, what's up, everybody? How you guys doing? Yes, you guys aren't seeing anything. You got your eyes are not deceiving you. You guys, I'm having a live interview tonight. I've only done a few of those, and you know that. But I have a very special person on here. Now, we're friends on Facebook, and we were at the the Minnesota Bigfoot conference, and didn't know it. We were there at the same time and we didn't know it until I saw her pictures she posted. And I'm like, well, gosh darn it. I was there. So, but before we bring my guest on, you guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining the channel, joining the chat. We like to do a lot of good things here. I got a lot of mods in the live chat right now. So you guys, thank you for showing up. I couldn't do it without you guys. So if you guys have had an encounter and you'd like to come on the show and share that encounter, please shoot me an email at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Again, that's thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Hey, you guys, without further ado, I got to bring my guest on. This is one of two young ladies that are trendsetters and groundbreakers. They were the first all-female Bigfoot investigation team in the Midwest. You guys, without further ado, let me bring Jen from. Jen, go ahead and announce your group.
It's a tongue twister, isn't it, Dano?
It's She-Squatch.
She-Squatchers.
That's it. She-Squatchers. For me, it is a tongue twister.
I'm like, oh, he's struggling. You're not the only one who struggles to say that.
You know, it's tongue in cheek in a way. If you look at it, I got a chance to kind of look at a few things that you did on your channel. Super impressed, and very thankful and grateful that you agreed to come on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Jenna sends her well wishes. She ended up being in a place where the Wi-Fi wasn't strong enough to do much of anything. So,
okay. Well, I have a special message for you.
Yes.
Since Jen is not there, you could pass this on to her. The mullet says hello.
The mullet messaged me and said he's your friend, and he said you would be so much cooler if you had a mullet.
Yeah, well, I did have a mullet back in the day, but now see, I don't have to pretend like him because I'm okay being this way.
Yeah.
But, without that, hey, it's by choice. I shave mine off by choice because, you know what? Time's catching up with me, and I'm definitely not going to fight it. So I'm just going to go with it.
There you go.
I just let you know you're being heard internationally right now. I have one of my mods, JoJo. She's from Australia.
Love it.
So I'm heard all over the place, which surprises me. I just got an email the other day saying on Apple Podcast, I am in the top 30 podcasts for this genre in Portugal.
That's fantastic.
In Portugal. So, but you guys, I just want to say thank you for you guys coming here. I hope you guys got some questions ready. We're going to get into talking with you, Jen, on just how you got started. What was your first encounter and what kind of made this snowball effect happen for you?
Well, I'm going to start out by saying I'm a psychic medium, and I was doing psychic work, working with sometimes missing persons cases. Paranormal investigations teams would have me looking at properties before they would go there, doing a lot of remote type of viewing things psychically. And so then I hooked up with this guy who was doing paranormal radio, and we started our show. We had a paranormal radio show, and we ended up at the Paracon in Minnesota years and years ago. And Lauren Coleman was there, and he's the cryptozoologist who has the International Cryptozoology Museum in the state of Maine. And I thought, wow, that'd be a great interview for our show. So I asked him if he'd sit down with us and have an interview, and he said yes. So here I am interviewing Lauren Coleman, one of the OGs of the Bigfoot world, right? And I know nothing about Bigfoot. I had known nothing. I had maybe seen, a handful of Finding Bigfoot shows on TV, and honestly, I wasn't really paying attention. So I didn't really believe in Bigfoot. And so this whole interview, he sat down with us for an hour and he was telling me all about Bigfoot, how it was a real thing. And in my home state of Minnesota, he assured me that there was Bigfoot out there. And I was like, come on now. I grew up in the woods. I was always in the woods. I didn't have any encounters or any inclination that there was any Bigfoot out there, but he assured me that there was. And he thought it would be the recipe for success in getting closer to Bigfoot if women went into the woods without men, dogs, or guns.
Mm-hmm.
The Bigfoots that people are seeing closer to the roads are probably the younger males who are out doing the things they're not supposed to be doing. And he thought these younger males would probably be more likely to come a little closer to check out some ladies out there if there was nothing of danger nearby. So that was his idea. He dared me to do it. I jokingly volunteered. And by the end of the interview, I said, okay, for real, I'm going to do it. I grabbed a couple of ladies from the paranormal conference that I was at, thinking, well, they have the night vision cameras that see in the dark. We need that if we're going to be outside at night. And they agreed to come with me. Well, I chose a location based upon a recent encounter. And then, of course, my idea on top of Lauren's was, could I use my psychic abilities to locate Bigfoot before we even get there? And the answer is yes, we can. And I had an encounter my very first try.
Oh, so lucky. So lucky.
It scared the other girls. The most of them were scared and they never wanted to do it again.
So when I had my sighting, I held on to that for a long, long time. Then it wasn't until diving into this whole thing, YouTube and everything, when I realized I had previous encounters before I had my sighting. And they were completely by chance. Now, it's funny that you said juveniles or younger males being mischievous, going out and doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. And I think that's what one of my encounters were when I was younger. But when you had this encounter, how did you go into it using your ability? Like, did you kind of go to the area, search out to see if that energy was there and call them in, or did they pick up on your energy? Because people believe, and I'm one of them, that they can pick up on your energy. And if you have a good energy, they're more apt to come out to you and interact with you in some way, whether it's a visual or it's maybe a tree knock or something being tossed at you. How did you approach that?
So in my business, I'm a Reiki master teacher, which means I feel energy on a physical level. It's literally a physical sensation in my body. It's not just a good vibe, a good feeling. It literally is a physical sensation. And so we went out driving during the day in the area that there was a sighting. Now, we didn't know exactly where it was. We just knew the lake. So we were driving around this lake, which was quite large. And I asked my senses to indicate when I was near the energy of Bigfoot, whatever that energy is. And because everything has an energy of its own frequency. So I was asking to sense that. And as we drove around, I felt something. And I said, okay, let's stop. We got out of the car. We started looking around. It was just this little gravel road with room enough for one car to drive down at a time, not even cross traffic, just one car. And we were driving and I said, stop the car. So we stopped and I got out and I started looking for evidence that maybe Bigfoot was there. And there was no evidence of that, but I still felt that energy there. So I marked that spot, the GPS spot. And I said, let's come back here tonight when it gets dark. And then we just kept looking around, right? We went around the whole lake looking to see if there were any other interesting areas. And then when it got dark, we went back out there. It was so dark that night that there was like no ambient light whatsoever. So once the car turned off and the lights were gone, it was pitch black. We couldn't see anything. And the girls were getting out of the car, and one of them handed me a thermal camera that she had borrowed from someone else, and she didn't really know how to use it. It was a cheap little FLIR that you pull a trigger and it takes a picture, right? So she hands it to me while she's going to go to the back to get her gear. I already had my stuff in my hand. So I get out of the car and I'm standing there and I'm just scanning the woods with this little FLIR, trying to see if, I was just excited to play with a thermal camera for the first time. I was like, show me a fox, show me a deer. So show me something. I want to see something just on this thermal camera. And as I'm scanning the forest to the right of the car, nothing. And I'm standing towards the front of the car to the right, but not in front of the car, just towards the front. And as I scanned across the road and towards the left part of the road where the tree line was, there was someone standing there, what looked like somebody standing there. And I was like, oh, well, who's out in front of the car? And nobody answered me. I just assumed it was one of the girls that was with us. I'm like, hey, who's out in front of the car? And nobody's out. And it's too dark for me to see, right? So I'm just looking on this little tiny screen at what looks like a person standing there, their temperature of a person standing there. And I kept asking, hey, who's out in front of the car? And Marlo heard how anxious my voice was getting. And she comes running up and she looks at what I'm looking at on the screen. And she sees what I'm seeing. And she looks up with her eyes to see if she could see it with her eyes. And she gasped and she said, oh, I just saw eyes. And so I dropped the camera down and I look to see if I can see the eyes, and I couldn't. But when I lifted the camera back up, I couldn't find it again. It had stepped into the woods. So we decided at that point, 3 of us were going to walk into the woods right where we had seen it. We went into the left side of the woods, and as we started walking in there, we didn't get very far before all of a sudden we heard something coming through the branches of the trees, and then something bounced right in front of us, about 3 feet in front of us, and I was like, what is that? And is that a rock? It was just like a little rock, maybe the size of a silver dollar, you know? And then here you hear another something coming through the branches of the trees. And here another thing bounced right next to it. Another rock. There's 3 rocks came in, and I'm just like, what is going on here? And I'm just going to say, this was our first time. I didn't know much about Bigfoot at all. I especially did not know that they were known for throwing rocks at people. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, this is my home state of Minnesota. Nothing has ever thrown rocks at me before. Deer, bear, nothing like that is going to happen with them. We're in the middle of nowhere. There's no houses for miles. This is just woods and this little road and the lake. And we're here in the middle of the night and nobody knows we're here. So like, this is crazy to me. And so I opened my awareness and I just felt like it didn't want us to come that way. So I said, let's back up. So we backed up back to the road and we're standing there. And one of them says, hey, why don't we do one of those Bigfoot calls like they do on TV? And I said, sure, go ahead. So one of them lets out a whoop and we all stand there waiting to hear a whoop back. Maybe. We didn't hear a whoop back. Instead, something on the other side of the road from where the rocks were coming from started walking towards us, and it was large and it was bipedal. You could hear each step. It was just cracking sticks as it walked, and it was coming. And all of those women who had those night vision cameras for haunted houses pointed their cameras in the forest towards that noise. And that's when we discovered that their cameras do not work in the woods. Work really great in haunted houses, but not in the woods. So we couldn't see it. We couldn't see what was coming. And then it was like somebody snapped their fingers and that sound of that creature walking towards us multiplied. And now something is coming at us from multiple directions. And we circled up back to back facing out. And, we didn't talk about that. That's what we should do if we're in trouble. We just automatically did that. All of us are straining to see whatever's coming and none of us can see it. And one of the girls said, "Hey, Jen, do your tobacco thing." Well, what she meant was, I'm part Native American, and we were on an Ojibwe reservation.
Okay.
And so I pulled my tobacco out of my pocket into my hand, and I started to pray out loud in the Ojibwe language. And then after I did a very formal introduction of protocol greeting, I said, "Miigwech me megwish," which is thank you to the little people and nature spirits. And I said, "Miigwech kichisabe," which is thank you to Bigfoot in the Ojibwe language. And as soon as I said that, thank you to Bigfoot, everything stopped. It just went silent. And it didn't retreat. They just all stopped moving. And I was like, yeah, that was exciting to me because it confirmed what the elders from the tribe had told me, that you could pray through the Great Spirit to anything, but you could pray through the Great Spirit to connect to Bigfoot and ask him for help, and he would help you. And so essentially, I feel like my thanking him, he knew that we were scared and to stop now. And that's what happened. So for me, that was confirmation of what the elders had told me. And so I was really excited. The other girls, for the most part, most of them were terrified. And they're like, "What? Come out of here." And yeah, so I mean, that was our very first experience with out in the field. And I was hooked. And I tell people all the time, you don't know how you're going to react when you're faced with something like that. You have no idea what you're going to do until it happens. And you're either going to be terrified and never want to do it again, or you're going to get hooked.
Yeah.
I got hooked. And, to back up a little bit, many, many months later, Jenna got a FLIR camera, a FLIR Scout. And then I was playing with that. And I realized that when you point it at somebody who's wearing clothing, their energy frequency comes up different on the FLIR than somebody who's not wearing clothing. And I immediately called Marlo and I said, "Marlo, do you remember what you saw on the screen that night when there was somebody standing out in front of the car?" She's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Was it wearing clothing?" She's like, "Oh, no." It wasn't. And neither one of us knew that because we'd never had dealt with a thermal camera before. But once I had some experience with one, I'm like, what I saw wasn't wearing clothes, but it was human shaped.
When you spoke Ojibwe to it, that kind and it responded in a way or reacted in a way that kind of gives prudence to a theory that I have, is that if you're in an area where Native Americans have been for hundreds of years, and each tribe has some kind of a story. I hate saying folklore. I believe in saying a story because that's what they are. It's not like, oh, I heard this thing. They're coming back with an actual account that is centuries old through, from one person to the next person to the next person. And so they understand that language. It's like inherited to them, that they inherently understand like this one or multiple, because we don't know, but multiple understood what you were saying to some degree. And see, that kind of I have this theory in my head, I don't know if it's crazy or not, but it's just crazy on how it reacted to you.
Well, I'm going to tell you, if you fast forward quite a few years, I was in Michigan speaking at the Michigan Bigfoot Conference. And after the conference was over, we had an invite-only expedition planned with a lot of the speakers. And that was when we first met Jason Kenzie, the filmmaker that we work with now from Searching for Sasquatch. So this was our first time with Jason, and we went out on expedition with him and all these other people that were invited. Adam Davies was there. Rob Kreider was there. Lots of people. And we were up in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we found a big X in the woods. And Jason was like, hey, I'm going to hang my hammock from that and sleep there tonight. And we're like, that is a stupid idea, Jason. Nice knowing you. And that was like day 4 or day 3 or 4 that we were there. And we had to leave because we were scheduled to speak at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference in Tennessee in Gatlinburg. So we had to leave to catch our plane to get to Tennessee for that conference. So we're like, it's nice knowing you. Please don't do that, Jason. But, so when we left, he slept in his hammock hanging from that X. And that night, something approached him and it first growled and then it said something and he caught it recorded on audio. And, when we film with Jason, to this day, this is true because we've been filming with him for years now, but to this day, this is true. We don't get to see the show until it's on TV and everybody else is watching it too. So when that show came out, I'm watching it on TV and I hear the recording. And it's my first time hearing it. And I immediately called Jason and I said, Jason, that was Ojibwe language. It was speaking to you in Ojibwe. And I don't think that he believed me. I think that he was like, oh, yeah, okay. And I don't think that he believed me because at that time he was thinking they were just an ape in the woods, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think he believed me because he didn't go anywhere with it. So then fast forward some years and I've got him in Minnesota and we're filming some documentaries up here. And I take him to my reservation. I'm an enrolled tribal member at Red Lake Band in northern Minnesota. And I took him there. And I said, Jason, will you play that recording that you got in Michigan from the X when you were in the hammock hanging from the X? Can you play that recording for them? And I wish that we would have been able to use their original reaction to it, but it was Vicky and her husband Rob. They are both first speakers, which means they spoke Ojibwe before English. Okay. And he didn't want to be on camera, so we had to recreate the reaction of just her the next day. But the original reaction when they listened to it around the campfire the night before, they heard it. They went, oh, and they repeated to each other what they heard. And I knew the first word. I knew the first word was hoa, which is like a surprise, something that you would say when you're surprised. Hoa. And then there was more words that I'm not fluent. I know some, but I'm definitely not fluent. And so they repeated what they heard. And I said, what does it mean? And Vicky said, get out of here.
Knew it. I knew it. I never heard the recording, but in my mind, I'm like, man, that Bigfoot is like, that Sasquatch is telling him, you need to leave. You need to get out of here.
And they didn't know what the recording was from.
No way.
So they didn't know the context to the recording. They just listened to it and were like, get out of here. Get out of here.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That is absolutely amazing. So, oh my goodness. So I'm familiar with the UP because I go to Michigan 2-3 times a year. My son lives in Michigan. And where he lives with his in-laws. And they are on 36 acres, 38 acres. It's either 36 or 38. And their property butts right up to the Manistee National Forest. And I've only told this a few times, but I was just there over Halloween. My granddaughter's birthday is on the 1st of November. And it was the night before we were going to come back to Minnesota so the previous days I'd been out in the part of the yard, walking around on the edge of the woods, whooping, making calls, did a couple of tree knocks, and nothing. Now I'll tell you, the dogs in the area, it's very rural where they live. Any dog in the area started losing its mind when I started howling and yelling and whatnot. So the night before we were going to leave, we went out to dinner, went over to back to his in-laws' house, and I was going out. I left something in the car from dinner. I was going out to grab it for someone. I think it was like my son's fiance. And as I walked out the front door, I started walking down the sidewalk to their gravel driveway, and all I did was whoop, just like that. That's all I did. Got to my car, and I heard 3 insanely loud and crisp tree knocks. And I stopped, and I'm like, okay, all right. Didn't mean to disrespect you. Don't know what I said. I'm just some stupid guy. All right, I got you guys. And I grabbed it and shut the door, locked it up, and walked as fast as I could back in the house. Didn't say a word to anybody. And because I don't want to scare anybody that lives there, because they swear that they've never seen or heard anything. And I know that's not the case. But that's another story for another time. So, what's the farthest you've traveled to either do an investigation or, for someone that maybe has reached out to you, or you were like, you know what, so and so invited me to come here. I think this is going to be an interesting investigation.
Well, we spent a month in Europe this summer.
Okay.
That's got to be the farthest.
I'm thinking Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana. No, you're across the pond. Okay.
And okay, so I have spent a lot of time in Michigan, of course, Minnesota, where I live. Texas is now where Jenna lives. She moved to Texas last year, so we're spending a lot more time in Texas. And we, generally speaking, when a Bigfoot conference or some type of an event, because now I'm speaking at UFO conferences as well.
Okay.
And Star Knowledge conferences, which is a completely different thing. It's usually Indigenous run, with a lot of Indigenous speakers sharing Indigenous knowledge about star people and star knowledge. So I started doing that this year as well. So, it's just been fun. But typically when we're speaking at a conference, they cover our travel and our lodging and some type of a speaker fee that covers our expenses of some kind. And nobody's going to get rich doing that. That's for sure. I mean, we're doing it because we love it.
Yep.
And, but as long as we don't have to pay out of pocket for our own travel, it's probably good. But we try to stay a little bit longer in these locations so that we can go out looking in the places where we're at. So that's allowed us to look in Washington State quite a few times. The East
Nice.
Coast, we've been North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. We've done Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky. So many fun places, and yet there's still so many more to go, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I always tell people, if you want to meet us, talk to your event organizers and ask them to bring us in, because we typically want to stay a little bit longer and go looking in the hot spots in your location.
Nice.
The thing when we first started doing this, like very quickly, I found out who was going to do this with me and who wasn't. And in the end, it was Jenna. She was my best friend. In the end, it was Jenna, and she is so fearless. I got to tell you, I've considered myself pretty brave, but she is just, wow. And she could definitely hold the plaque for I'm the most fearless. That's for sure. So, she'll go into things that I'm like, are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah. Have you ever worked with or heard of Natalie Smearman?
No.
She's working with Greg Ogle and a few people from Relic Films. They were just out in the LBL, and I just interviewed her, and her episode's dropping this Saturday. It's a early release for my members, but it's a Saturday release. You definitely got to check it out, because she very fearless, and I showed a couple people that I know who know her, and they told me about what happened up at the LBL. They were out at the LBL for a whole week. And have you ever had an experience or anything up there, or had a chance to go and check out the LBL?
We are asked that question all the time. And no, we went out looking for the goat man at, what is the place called? The Trestle Bridge. Pope Lick. The Pope Lick monster at the Pope Lick Trestle Bridge in Kentucky. I think that's Kentucky, right? Where is that? Oh,
If anybody in the chat knows,
I'm getting my places mixed up. It's right over the border from Indiana, though. I know that because it was close to that. Because we were down there with Squatch Man in Indiana, and we went there close by to him. Anyway, we haven't made it to the LBL yet, but because people are asking us about it so much, it is on our list of places that we're going to hit. So definitely we're going to be going there at some point. I can't tell you when. Even if I did know, I wouldn't tell you.
yeah. Oh no, I get it. I think you're going to be, you and Jenna, I think you guys are going to be pleasantly surprised, but
Yeah.
also horrified or terrified. I've had a few people that have spent an absorbent amount of time in the LBL. I'm really good friends with Daryl Denton. Daryl Denton has spent some very crazy times in the LBL, trying to get Martin Groves on the show. Now that he's feeling a lot better, I keep praying for him. But these are people, that you should really reach out to, or I could reach out and try to get you connected with them. If you do decide to get out there in the LBL, because you're going to want people who know exactly what they're doing out there, because by all accounts, everything that I've heard, the LBL is not a place to take lightly or play around with.
I've heard that too. I actually have a client from here who bought property down there and had every intention of building a cabin. He brought a camper down to his property and started working on it. And he spent maybe 2.5 months there before he was like, nope.
Really?
Yep.
No kidding. That's crazy. Let me ask you, so in your travels, again, how long have you been doing this?
2015.
So we're looking at almost 11 years.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like that long though, but yet, yeah. We're having so much fun. It's always an adventure.
Yeah.
And I consider it part of the great mystery, and the world is full of great mysteries that we're supposed to be exploring.
Absolutely. In just a minute, I'm going to open up the chat for some questions, and then we'll kind of get back into some more. But I have a question. What is one of the most, I don't want to overuse the word terrifying, but kind of an encounter that kind of shook you to where you kind of second guessed on going back into an area like that?
It's kind of a two-part story. Okay, so there's a property that I love to be investigating at in northern Minnesota near Black Duck. It's a private property. And the owner is Randy Bauer, and he lets us go there and investigate. And we were there a couple of summers ago, and I'm standing by my tent, which he mows these amazing paths through his whole property, like crisscrossing paths, and it's really nice. It's really nice for hiking, and I'm quite sure that the Bigfoots are using those paths too, because they're the paths of least resistance. And anyway, so we put our tent on in a location where these two paths were meeting, and it's right near a river through the forest. And I'm standing by my tent with Mike Quast, talking to Mike Quast, who has written books about that property. And all of a sudden I got that feeling like someone's staring at you, and so I turned my head to where that feeling was coming from. And I say that always hoping that other regular people have those feelings, because I don't know. I'm psychic. I don't know if other people feel that stuff or not. But I followed it, and I locked eyes with this Bigfoot that was about 30 feet into the forest, who was just standing there staring at me. And the look on its face went, And I did the same. And then it jumped back. And when it jumped back, the two trees that it was standing behind, they were younger but very tall, started whipping back and forth really violently. And Mike, who was standing there looking at me when it happened, he saw my reaction to seeing it. So then he quickly looked, not quick enough to see what made the trees move, but he watched it originally start whipping and how violent. I mean, it took some force to make that happen.
Yeah.
And then the other people who were on the other side of the tent come running around, and they got to see the trees moving. So they take off into the forest there. I stood still, which is the smart thing to do. Stay still and tell them when they're there at the spot, right? When they got to the spot, I couldn't see them because they were too short. So it was very tall. And that one was a black one.
What is the closest you've gotten to one that you know of for sure?
That was for sure. It was daytime, and I saw it very clearly. But then we'll fast forward to this last summer, and I'm back out there again with my tent in the same spot, because there's like a nature trail that goes back in the woods, like right where it was. And I just, when we later explored that area back there, I think that that's a place that it commonly hangs out and it likes to watch. So anyway, I had my tent back there, and Jenna had gone to bed earlier than me. And I was out at the fire pit with Randy, the property owner, and Darby Orcutt, who is the guy running the Genome Project for the Bigfoot collecting of evidence for DNA studies at North Carolina University. So he was out camping with us because he wanted to see that property. And his tent was on the other side of the property. So when we all decided to go to bed, we each left in a different direction in the dark. And so I'm walking to the tent, and I've done this many times in the dark by myself, and I've never really felt super afraid. Like, I always felt pretty safe. But that night, I didn't feel safe. Something was like telling me that I wasn't safe, and I was whipping my head back and forth like something's looking at me, but I can't tell where from. And so I quickly walked to get to the tent, and I got in there, and I was like, okay, Jenna's snoring away. She was fast asleep. And so I laid down and go to sleep. I wake up, and it's probably 11:45, and I hadn't been sleeping for maybe 30 minutes. And all of a sudden I felt sick. I felt really sick, like I was going to throw up. So I sat up. I was just drinking some ginger ale and trying to not throw up, and started to feel a little bit better. So I laid back down, and I'm just wide awake, just laying there. And all of a sudden there is a fight right outside the tent. And I mean right outside the tent. I'm laying on a cot. Jenna's laying on a cot. Jenna takes sleeping pills, so she was really out. But there was this fight, and it felt like it was right outside our tent, right by her head. And I've got a big 10-person tent, right? So with 2 cots in there, it's quite spacious. But you could hear and I could feel the thudding on the ground. Even I was on the cot, and I could feel the thudding happening on the ground when something was throwing this other thing on the ground, and they were wrestling. And then something started screaming, and it was a sound I'd never heard before. And I asked, in my intuition, what is it that's out there? And in my mind's eye, I saw a Bigfoot beating up a bear. And that anybody else is going to be like, okay, she thinks it was, whatever. But the screaming went on and on and on, and it went running down. It kept beating up the bear all the way down this other trail that went to the power line corridor, which is really far. And you could hear it screaming the whole way, and except for the times that it yelped, because you could tell it was getting still hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was all upset, and I had woke Jenna up, and I'm like, okay, now I'm like super sick. I need to go outside, and I'm scared to go outside. And we had left, like, I had a soft-sided cooler with just ice and drinks in it, but I had pulled it away from the tent out into the middle of the trail. It was like 15 feet away from the tent. And I had a bag of Doritos that we were munching on at the fire, and they were halfway gone. So I just closed the bag and put it on top of that cooler away from the tent. And I thought if something wants it, they can have it. We had also given some fresh strawberries and some bananas and other food items to Randy that we didn't want in our cooler by the tent. So we're just like, we're going to be done with this, because we had been camping elsewhere for quite a few days before we got there. And I was like, I don't want this food near our tent. So I gave it to Randy to gift to the animals. And I didn't know what he did with it. He had placed it on a park bench that was one trail over. So it was maybe 350 feet away, maybe 400 feet away from us. Didn't know that it was that close. So I expected that when I left the tent that those Doritos would have been gone, or there was going to be a big mess. None of that had been touched. And Jenna comes out there, because now I'm outside the tent and I'm being sick. And I'm like, you need to come outside with me because I'm freaked out. And so I was really scared. I was scared because, I don't know that I'm necessarily so afraid of Bigfoot, but in a predatory manner, I know as like a native person that predators are looking for something that is sick. That is like the food bell. They take out the sickness. That's the easy prey. And so to be sick out there where there's something happening, some kind of predator out there, I was like a little bit afraid. So she's like guarding me while I'm out there. But, and then even in the morning, there was the strawberries and the bananas, all of that was still there. Nothing had been touched, not even the Dorito, nothing. So had it been two bears, one of the bears would have come back for the food, right? But nothing took any of the food at all. And so that when we got internet, because there's no internet back there, when I got internet, I looked up, what does a bear in distress sound like? And I started playing recordings of it. And that is exactly what we were hearing, screaming. So that was pretty scary. Like, I feel fully that Bigfoot protected us, that the bear came sniffing at the tent and the Bigfoot was like, that's not happening. But in that night where this altercation happened right outside of our tent, that creeped me out. In that moment.
You telling that story, that is not the first time I've heard that.
Really?
I had a person on, I want to say your episode 129. So I want to say probably in the first 30 episodes. Okay. This lady, when she was a little girl, was walking down this path and she saw this Bigfoot up on a little hill overlooking the path, and it caught her attention. She stopped, and all of a sudden a grizzly bear showed up, and the Bigfoot made a noise, and I'm trying to remember if this is how it went, but this Bigfoot scared off this grizzly bear, protecting the little girl. Like, he had put himself in a position where he was between the girl and the bear. And the bear's like, I don't want no part of this. And decided to roll. So I've heard that before, but this is the second time I've heard it. So, it just kind of gives it more oomph to the story, I guess. Like, yeah, it happens. This happened, I want to say, out in California, or not California. God, where was she? I have to go back and look, but she said it was a grizzly bear. So, but she was a kid, so it could have probably been just like a brown bear or a black bear or something like that. But still, nonetheless, it's a bear. So, right. So I'm going to ask you a question you've probably been asked 1,000,000,001 times. Have you ever sensed or had an encounter with Dogman?
I can't say that I have. Specifically Dogman. We've gone looking for Dogman and interviewed people about the Dogman, but I myself, I don't think that we have. And that might be partially because I'm a little leery of that still. I'm not exactly sure that I want to know the Bigfoot or know the dog man yet. Because I hear, they're a little more dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't heard, like, I really should probably go talk to the elders about the dog man and see if there's any stories. That's a good thing. I recently started doing some work at the nursing home on the reservation, and so I have access to all these elders.
Oh, so awesome.
I know. It's been, this last week was my first time with them, and how cautious they are when they first meet me, and
Very cautious.
watch them open up when I start to speak to them in Ojibwe. They're like, ooh, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot, but I can get by a little. But
My older brother used to work for the Tule River tribe in the San Joaquin Valley in Porterville, California. And he is I'm still waiting to get the email, but there's an elder that's no longer on the council that's willing to talk to me
ooh,
about the cave drawings, cave paintings that they have there on the reservation. So I'm really fascinated. So I'm just biding my time. Just
yes,
biding my time. Because I have talked with some of the elders before from the Tule River tribe, but not in this capacity. I was actually trying to get hired on their casino as their chief of security, but
and
that's a
where is
whole
that located?
say what?
Where is that located?
That's in Porterville, California.
Okay, so what tribe is that?
Tule River tribe, Tule.
Okay, I've never heard of that one. But
Yeah.
it's far
They're
from.
yeah, they're in the San Joaquin Valley. So it's pretty crazy out there. But my thing is how often do you find yourself just say out and about, you know, in a park or something like that, and you get this feeling, maybe not such a very populated area, but you get a feeling that one of these creatures have come by this area or is in the area, not necessarily super close to you, but like I hate to put it. Does your radar go out like
It does.
miles in miles?
It does. Sometimes it does. So, like, there's an instance where, I live in Moorhead, Minnesota. It's all town. There's no woods like backing up to it at all. The only woods really here are along the Red River, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a paranormal investigation team here in Fargo asked if I would want to come with them on an investigation. I said, sure. So we were looking for ghosts, not Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
So we went out, and they chose the location as this cemetery north of Moorhead. And I'd never been there before. I normally look at a place on Google satellite imagery before I go there, but I didn't do it for this one. I just went. I rode with somebody else, and off we went. So didn't even really know the area. I'd never been there before. And so we're there in the dark. We're doing our paranormal investigation. All the equipment's out and whatever. And the closer we get to the edge of the cemetery that's got forest or trees there, I'm trying to focus in on sensing ghosts, and all I keep picking up is Bigfoot. I'm like, what? And so I was like, well, what's going on? I don't think Bigfoot could be here, really. And I asked the guy, I said, what's back here and back behind? Is the river right there? He's like, yeah, the river's back there in the forest. I'm like, okay. And I said, I know this is going to sound bizarre, but I just keep feeling like there's some Bigfoots back there. And he's like, okay, well, he later started going back there on the next few weeks. He started going back there and doing night fishing with his buddy. And they had an encounter back there.
They get some rocks chucked at them?
They did. They absolutely did. And some whoops and growls.
I don't know what it is. I think that fishermen get the short end of the stick with Sasquatch. I mean, they see a hunter, they kind of leave, but they see like they go out of their way to terrorize fishermen.
Mhm.
I hear tons of stories about it. Some even where they're throwing basketball-sized rocks out at the boat, and then if they're not hitting the boat, they just come straight out of the woods out to the shore and then start wading into the water like they're gonna do something to the boat, you know? But, I got a good question. I've got a video. Like you said, Jenna is in Texas. Do you know? Well, of course, you know whereabouts. Is like East Texas. You know
She
what?
lives about an hour north of Houston, near Lake Conroe.
Okay, so I have Steamboat. He's one of my mods. Episode 11. Because if I don't mention it, he'll start spamming it in the chat. But he sent me. Um, he sent me a very interesting video. Now, some people have poo-pooed on it. Some people are very, very intrigued with it. Can I show it to you and kind of get what your take is on it?
Sure, let me put my glasses on.
Sure.
I actually have them nearby, which is really convenient.
Awesome.
They're dirty. They're dirty.
I mean, I've showed this to Doug Hycheck. I've showed it to Daryl Denton, Kumbo Baker, MK Davis.
Oh, these are bad. These are not my usual glasses.
Okay.
Okay.
So here we go. It's a 35-second video. So the figure moved from the left to the right. When it got all the way to the right, when it bent down, it was peeling back the top of a live trap and taking a raccoon out of it.
It let a raccoon out.
No, he walked off with some fast food.
Oh.
Yeah, he had takeout, so he grabbed it and then walked back to the left with it. Now the story with this is that I guess the person who this is video surveillance. This is from a friend of Steamboat's, and he says he's in the chat right now. He says the fence is 8 foot 4 inches tall. And the gentleman whose property this is was having issues with raccoons and things like that getting into like a shed or whatever. I think there's a swimming pool in the backyard. So he was setting up live traps. And he said that he had heard or seen something that was definitely not a raccoon back there. So he kind of moved his camera angle a little bit so he catch this area of the backyard. I guess later on the thing in the video has tried to communicate with the male owner of the house, and he's not responsive, but the wife is responsive. And the Bigfoot has spoken, I guess, mentally with the woman saying, hey, I'm not here to cause any trouble. I've been here for a long time. My name's Samson. Yeah. So that on my original TikTok has over 185,000 views.
Nice.
And it's one. I don't know what to do with it. Honestly, I know it's not AI. Doug Hycheck even said it's not AI. But when you see something like that, if someone presents proof to you. How do you look at it, being who you are and the things that you've encountered in the past?
So it's easier for me to read people than it is to read a video.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. So, you know Bob Gimlin,
Yep.
sweet fella, Patterson Gimlin film.
Mm-hmm.
I've met him quite a few times. He's a sweet, sweet guy. When there were others that came out saying that there was some kind of a massacre where they killed Patty,
Yeah.
I was like, no. And I came right out and I said, no, that is not something that happened. That absolutely is untrue. And I typically, when people come and ask me, what do you think of so-and-so? What do you think of so-and-so? I usually do not give an opinion because everyone's smart enough to make their own opinion.
Yeah.
And they don't need me to tell them this or that, right?
Right.
And I think there's a lot of bad mouthing that goes on in the community, and I just don't want to participate in it.
Right.
But when that was being said about Bob, I was like, no. And the reason I know that that's not true is because I've listened to him in person tell that story. And had there been something like a massacre going on, even though that wouldn't have been the words he was telling, the memory would have been in his head.
Yeah.
And the energy of that memory would have clouded his whole energy field. I would have felt it.
Yeah.
It didn't
You know,
happen.
I was just asked that very same question, and someone, hey, Dan, what do you think about, the whole there's the hubbub going on, and it's out there again about the massacre, and I go, I'll tell you right now, it's not true. I was at the Minnesota Bigfoot conference with Russell Accord, and Russell spoke on it.
Yeah, he did.
You were there. Russell shut it down quick. Russell goes, this is ridiculous, because him and Bob are tight.
Yeah, they are.
They are very, very close, and he shut it down real quick. So anybody who's listening tonight or listens this on the replay, if you guys have heard this rumor that there was some type of a massacre that was going on out there when this Patty film was taken, it's not true. It didn't happen. Now I have it on a second good source right here. So,
the thing is that if you presented me with the person whose video that it was, I could tell you.
Steamboat, you heard that. You heard that, man. We need that happen.
So, not that I want to be the judge of all judges here, but I mean, I've always said that, back in the time when they were so scared of terrorists getting on our planes back in 9/11 and whatever, I was like, why don't they hire people like me to be out there?
Yeah.
Scanning these people before they get on a plane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Put me in the scanning room.
What's one of the coolest things that you've been gifted, if you have been gifted, while you're out during an investigation or like a camping trip, an overnight or something like that?
So when we were in Indiana with Squatch Man, and we were filming Searching for Sasquatch 9.
Okay.
At Squatch Man's hotspot, Squatch Greg Yost, if you're familiar with him.
Mm-hmm.
He has a gifting stump back in the forest. And so he got some donuts, and they were sealed in a plastic container from the store. And he brought them as a gift, and I brought like an apple, and we had different things that we were leaving on the gifting stump. Tobacco, because as a Native person, I'm going to leave tobacco with an offering. And what was interesting is that when we went back to check the spot later, the donut container had been opened, and only some of the donuts had been eaten. And one of them was only partially eaten. And there were fingerprints of large fingers, like not just one finger, but large fingers that were inside of the donut container from when it reached in there to take the donut. Okay. Yeah. That was cool. And I can't remember what your question was, but I'm just telling you the story now. Have
you ever been gifted something back?
Oh, so it had taken the apple and took a bite, but it only left its teeth imprint into the apple. And I felt like that was a gift, like to show that, these are not the usual animal teeth here.
Right.
I felt like that was a gift. And the property that I like to go and investigate by Black Duck, that property owner is gifted often skulls. Well, he'll walk in on a trail, and when he walks back 20 minutes later, there's a skull in the middle of the trail where he had just walked. And obviously that's a gift. So my thinking was, well, they're gifting bones. Can I gift bones back to them? Because he gives food. He gives food. And I was like, can I gift bones? So I started bringing bones out there, like bone beads that are made out of bones, large beads. And they took them.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought, well, they're gifting bones. What if I gift them something made of bone? That would be my personal thing that I'm doing with them.
Right.
So the owner said that was fine. Because, I'm always respect it's his place. Is that okay if I do this? And he always, says yes. He's very kind and he's just a good guy. Good guy. Awesome. He has a lot of interaction there. And this year has been particularly active out there. A lot of people had very one-on-one encounters, and a lot of things happened this year out there.
Yeah. I think you hear a lot, like activity is picking up. Mm-hmm. Like it really is. More so I want to say in the last 2 or 3 years than previous years. Why do you think that is?
That's a really good question. Is it because people are more open to it and they're out there looking? That could be part of it. In the whole energy aspect of the world, all the people who are on the conscious journey of raising their energy frequency are talking about ascension. And are you familiar with what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. A little bit. So they're talking about raising the energy frequency of the people and the planet in general. So then when enough people have raised their own energy frequency, it like tips the scales of the whole planet type thing. Mm-hmm. And then it raises the frequency of the whole planet. There is something like that happening right now, and we can see evidence of that where the energy frequency of the earth is rising. It's activating these dormant genes in animals, causing there to be white buffalo being born. That's a recessant gene that's being activated because the energy of the planet is changing. And there's other animals too that have this recessive gene of all white or all black animals that aren't normally being born. Right. And so as a Native person, we're seeing that as the sign that there is a change happening here. Something is happening. And we could talk about the white buffalo calf woman. She was one of the teachers that came to the Native people. And when she left teachings of, the ways of right being, about the creator, about, there were teachers that came to all the different tribes at the same time. Yeah. And most people don't know that. But there were teachers that came to all the different people, and the stories of them some of them are so fantastic. But the majority of them, as far as I understand, were saying they were going to leave now, but they would come back, and it would be a really long time until they came back. But when they came back, and we're talking generations into the future, they, the white buffalo calf woman in particular, she said that you would know my return was near when the white buffalo begin to be born.
Yeah.
And she said to create her a teepee in the middle place of where they're being born. So I think the first one was born in Jamestown, North Dakota. And then there's been some born in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And they're now being born all over the place. So it's happening more and more and more.
Yeah.
But I'm like going to Minnesota.
Yeah. Is it all right if I open up the chat for some questions?
Absolutely.
All right, you guys, let's keep them subject matter. Let's ask some questions, you guys. Anybody got any questions? Please type them all in caps.
There is one thing I'm seeing in the chat room. Somebody's talking about an albino robin, an albino.
Yep,
albino. So one thing about the white animals that are being born, they're not albinos.
Okay.
They're not albinos. Like there's white buffalo that are born that are albinos, but the ones that we're talking about are not albinos. It's a recessive gene. They're just coming out white with regular eyes.
Okay.
So yeah, very, very interesting. And there's like something with deer. There's some white deer that have turned white. And I don't know all of them from all the different tribes, but definitely that is happening, and it's believed to be that the energy frequency of the planet is raising,
Right.
causing the recessive gene to come out again. And that's one of the things the various teachers were talking about when they had been here, was that you would notice these things happening when their return was going to be near.
When I was stationed in Cheyenne, Wyoming, there was a white antelope, pronghorn sheep, American pronghorn sheep. We call them antelope. That was on the base with his harem, and this buck probably had 40 to 50 females,
Wow.
and he would roam all over the base. I used to see him, but I never got a really good look at his eyes to see if he was albino. But people said that he was an albino. Um, and you said it's the energy of the planet's raising, and it's causing these recessive genes to show themselves. Do you feel that Bigfoot is or Sasquatch is picking up on this energy, and is he being drawn to almost communicate or have some kind of interaction with us more so than what it used to be?
Well, I think that, okay, so as a native person, the belief system about what is Bigfoot? Bigfoot is our big brother, and he looks out for us. And so the teaching is that he had a relationship with the people, right? And he does look out for us. And that he is a physical being, but he walks between worlds, so to speak. So just like the little people do, they can be physically here and then not here. And what does that mean exactly? A lot of people talk about dimensions, and they think that when something comes from another dimension, that they're talking about a different place, a different planet, a different location. But I don't think that's always true. Maybe it is true sometimes. But when we think about dimensions of consciousness, when you raise your energy frequency, your dimension of consciousness can raise with it, and you can become aware of more of what is around you that you didn't see before. And if we talk about that on a scientific level, the human brain, science tells us that the brain thinks at 400 bytes per second. That's what it's processing already doing. It's doing that. But the average human is only consciously aware of 2,000 bytes out of that 400 billion that it's aware of.
Right.
So we're almost completely unaware of everything that we're sensing. We're almost completely unaware of everything. So what if they're just raising their frequency enough to step out of our awareness, and they're still just right there?
Okay. I got two questions for you.
Okay.
So someone said, was it keeps? I can't pronounce the name, but they're asking. So he's a guardian spirit, not a maleficent one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So just like what the little people would be, or the nature spirits, are all about the earth and the planet and the balance. And they would want everyone to be in balance and in harmony with the earth, meaning not causing any harm.
Okay.
Does
that makes sense? Oh yeah, that to me it makes sense.
I mean, if you think about Bigfoot being as big as powerful as they are, if they wanted to kill us, they could very easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very easily. And the fact that they don't should tell you that they're not bad.
Right. The mullet is in the chat.
Hey.
And he asks, do you think the power grid has kept the energy levels held down because of all of the EMF?
The energy levels of us, perhaps, maybe a little bit. But I don't think that there's anything that holds us completely back. As long as we believe that we can move forward, we can. We are much more powerful as human beings than anyone would like to admit. And I'm telling you that from experience. We are much more powerful as human beings than anyone would ever want you to know.
Oh, it's true. If we used the full potential of what we are capable of doing, yeah, that'd be a scary world. You'd have some people losing their mind and using it for nefarious things.
Well, that's the thing that I've come to understand over the years on my spiritual journey of my own, that the people that are raising their energy frequency are naturally becoming more kind and compassionate. And the idea of using those things to hurt somebody is no longer part of them. If it was, they couldn't raise their energy. They couldn't be at that frequency.
Yeah,
As they elevate their frequency, it elevates them into an area where they just don't have those urges to hurt people anymore.
right. No, that makes perfect sense. So you kind of opened two doors. You mentioned little people, and you also mentioned dimensions. Now, a lot of people I know believe that Sasquatch is an interdimensional being. They'll make that statement, but then they won't get into, well, what do you mean interdimensional being? Me, I'm 100% flesh and blood. Until I see it phase out of something, or opens a portal and walks through a portal, or uses a tree to super travel from one part of the forest to the next, it's always going to be flesh and blood. But I do believe they have the ability to manipulate light due to their hair, something to that nature, where they can immediately blend in with something in their immediate surrounding. They're the masters of camouflage. And so,
That's true. But so are deer. I mean,
yep.
if you spend any time in the forest, the things that are naturally there blend in quite well when they want to.
Hmm. So have you seen or had experiences with little people, either here in Minnesota, or you have?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you guys, this just got great.
Oh, yeah.
Please. I've been jonesing for someone that has had a little person encounter. And you guys, I'm not talking about like Wee Man or someone like that, Peter Dinklage. I'm talking about little forest people. Please, can you tell us some encounters?
So my elder, his name was Larry Stillday, and he was the leader of the Midewin for our tribe. And the Midewin means the Grand Medicine Society. And so he was a spiritual advisor, the spiritual leader of our tribe. He was their leader, right? And so I learned from him for about 5 years, pretty tight with him. And he had developed this outdoor classroom up in Panema on my reservation. And I was there for this class that we were doing. And as he's teaching the class, I'm looking to my left at the base of this tree, just outside of the circle of the people sitting there for the class. And at the base of the tree, it looks like somebody had carved these 5 little faces that were about the size of a softball each. And they were all just like joyful faces, just carved into the base of this tree. And I'm looking at it, and I was just like, well, I've never seen that there before. And I wouldn't take my eyes off of it, because I've learned over the years, if you see something, don't take your eyes off of it, right? So I just kept my eyes on it until he said it was time for a break. And I walked over to him with my eyes still on it, and I pointed. What do you see right there at the base of that tree right there? And he looked and he said, well, that's the little people. You can see them?
Yes.
You can see them? And I'm like, what do you mean that's little? Who carved it like that? And he says, nobody carved it, Jen. He says, that's the little people. They're blending their energy in with the tree. They're just standing there hiding. they're here to help me teach the class. The whole reason why he built his sweat lodge there in that classroom there was because that's where they lived. And he felt that, and they communicated with him that they would help him help the people there. And so they were always in communication with him. And he said, that won't look like that later when they're gone. And so then we had lunch, and I had taken my eyes off of it. And when I put my eyes back on it, they were gone.
Oh.
So you got to know that every time I go back there, my eyes are just darting from tree to tree to tree looking for them, right? But that's not my only encounter with them. Like when I had gone out there one time, I was coming out for the powwow, and it was going to be really late when I got there, like 3:00 in the morning. And so I said, could I just maybe camp out at the lodge? And he said, yeah, because I didn't want to disturb anybody who was camping by getting there so late. So I was just going to sleep in my van, and I got there about 2:30 in the morning, and I pulled into the area, which is in the forest. And as I'm pulling in, I'm seeing all these spirits flooding into my car. So excited that I'm there, but they weren't human spirits. They were little people spirits. And there was one that he looked kind of like a native man, but he had a wolf pelt on his head, and he went like this, and he went, oh, and he turned into a wolf. And it was just like the coolest experience of them welcoming me there in the night. And everybody knows that nighttime when the sun goes down, it's their time. It's their time. And there's stories of their villages on the reservation. And if you know enough people, they'll tell you where the villages are. And, you know, you have to go and look at the right time and the right energy frequency to see the village, because otherwise it's invisible. You can't see it. But
Yes.
I've heard of some of the places where they are. And then there's the water spirits in the lake. And they don't stay in the lake. They can fly out of the lake. They fly in the air. And I've had many encounters with them. They're sentient beings. They're the number one reported UFO is the classic orange orb UFO.
Yep.
And I think they're probably the number one reported USO, unidentified submerged object, as well. But a lot of people think that they might be probes, or they might be ships, or whatever. And I'm telling you right now, they are sentient beings, and they just have a different kind of body than we do. It's an energy body. And they're beautiful. They're beautiful. And they feel like absolute love and joy. Because I've been touched by them. I mean, it's just an amazing experience, and a very blessed experience to experience something like that. And, you know, then I get to watch like TV and things over the years, and I see, you know, shows like Ancient Aliens will have shows about them, but they don't call them water spirits. They, you know, they call them the Foo Fighters in World War II, the fighter pilots who would see them in the air flying so fast. They thought it was some type of an enemy craft, and they named them the Foo Fighters. Mm-hmm. And I did see one episode, I think it was Ancient Aliens, where our government was doing something with the nuclear warheads and the nuclear missiles, and the fireballs flew over the area and shut everything down when they flew over. And the government, and on the show, they're talking about how the government was freaking out. They have control of our weapons. They have control of our weapons. And I'm going, yeah, they said no.
Right.
I have no fear of a nuclear bomb going off anywhere. I have no fear of that, because I know that they would never allow that to happen.
Couple of questions. Someone asked, are little people gnomes?
There are gnomes. Jenna has seen a gnome, and I've seen a gnome, but she's more prone to seeing gnomes, and I think there's a reason behind that. Gnomes are said to be the little people that came over from like the Scandinavian countries with farmers, and her family, Scandinavian farmers. And so there was one night that we were out, and we were casting Bigfoot prints. And so we were sitting there waiting for everybody to come back, because they went to get stuff so we could retrieve the casts as they were drying. So they left us there without a vehicle. And we're just sitting there, and we're playing with our new night vision stuff. And she's the tech girl. I'm not so techie. And so she turned on my monocular and was trying to teach me how to use it. And so I looked through it, and it wasn't recording at the time. And I looked through it, and I saw these little people come out and wave at me. And I was like, Jenna. And she's using her she has a unocular. And she was looking at the bushes across the way, and she saw what she thought was an outline that looked like a gnome. She's like, oh, very cute. That looks like a gnome. And she just thought she was seeing something that resembled a gnome until it turned and looked at her.
Oh,
and then she's like, oh my God.
It's a gnome.
It really is a gnome. So all of those things I think are real. And, my grandma, who was Scandinavian, had all these gnome little statues in her house. And she thought they were one of her prized possessions. And I wished now that I could go back and ask her questions about that, because she was way attached to those. Like, it was more than just a little knickknack. I mean, these were large. She had them sitting about, and there was something more to that. My hindsight says there's something more to that. I wish I could go back and ask her about the gnomes, because I think she had encounters with them.
My wife, we have for our tree topper, we have a gnome that sits on the top of our Christmas tree. My wife saw it, fell in love with it, and needed to get it. But she's also loves Dala horses. Her family's Scandinavian. Me, I'm just a mutt. But I got a quote. What someone asked here, orbs. What are your thoughts or your beliefs on orbs? What are they? Are they related to Sasquatch?
Okay, so there's different kinds of things that people call orbs. So let me kind of clarify which ones I'm going to talk about. So there's the orbs that people see in their paranormal investigations that could be it could be dust, light passing through dust, that type of thing. And then there are the spirit orbs that they're capturing in paranormal investigations that like literally move through people, and it's not dust. So I'm assuming that they're not asking about those. What I'm assuming that they're asking about is the self-illuminating orbs that are seen in the forest, which I call water spirits. And they come in different colors. I think that some of them aren't all water spirits. Some of them could be, what we call them, nature spirits of some kind, right? Tree spirits. They're the green ones I've seen mostly skipping. It's almost like they're skipping out across the treetops. And they literally look like somebody plopped the green light out of a traffic light, and it's just hovering about, moving about. The ones I'm most connected to look like basketball-sized fireballs. And what do I think that they are? Well, they are sentient beings. They are nature spirits of some type, probably different kinds. And I have interviewed people that have claimed that they saw a Bigfoot turn into one of those and then disappear.
I've heard the same thing.
I personally have not seen that, but the person that told me that, I have full trust in, and he wasn't lying to me. I could tell if he was. He was not lying to me.
Yeah.
And he's the person that I go to his property. That's the property where I have all those daytime Bigfoot encounters at his property. So, I also had an encounter there with what I can only call a fairy, because it was awesome. about this size of a ball of light, but when it approached me, we decided that we were going to do separate things on the property. So I was at the fire pit, and Jenna was in a tree stand on the other side of the property, and Randy was in another tree stand on a different area of the property. And we were just separated, thinking that maybe we'd have an encounter if something would happen. And I was tending the fire, and this ball came up to me, and it was loud. It sounded like a very large hummingbird buzzing, right? And it came up to me, and as it whooshed past my face, I felt like it pulled me into like a trance state, and I started like, I had to sit down, and I got like sucked in. Felt like I was getting sucked into a vision state where I was just so exhausted and I was just seeing stuff. It was a really weird experience. It was cool, and I suspected that it was a fairy, but I didn't use the word fairy.
Yeah.
I just, because I didn't know how Randy would feel about that.
Right.
But the next day, he called me after I left, and he's like, "Jen, do you believe in fairies?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I hadn't used the word fairy. I didn't
Right.
use the word. He says, "Do you believe in fairies?" And I said, "I do." And he's like, "Well, I had an experience today, and it was during the day." He said, "Something flew up to me, and it sounded like a big hummingbird, but he said, I saw the little body. It was this little dark human-shaped body flying about." And I was like, that's pretty much I didn't see the little body. All I saw was the little flash of light of it when it approached me at the fire the night before. But he's just like, I think it was a fairy. And I was like, yep. And
So I have, someone had sent me a video, 22-second video. Now let me give you a little bit of background on this video. One, it's in Canada. Two, it is super early in the morning. It's near, I want to say, the end of January. It's 20 below zero outside, and there's snow on the ground. When I play this video, you're going to want to look at the upper, I'm going to have to look, maybe upper right-hand corner. You'll see something come up, look like it's coming close to the camera, and then it kind of goes away. Then you'll see it appear on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll play it a couple times. Let me know what you think. I have a strong belief on what it is. Let me know what you think. And if you want me to play it again, I'll play it again.
Can you play it again?
Sure. Here we go.
Can you slow it down?
I wish I could.
I know how to slow it down.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. On my phone, I can slow things down.
Oh, I'll have to send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And let me know what you think. But people are telling me, oh, it's a moon moth, it's a lunar moth, it's this. Not 20 below zero. It's not going to be an insect. Not that I know of.
Winter time?
Yeah. It's near the end of January.
Oof.
20 below zero up in Canada. There's probably 3 feet of snow on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So I think it's a fairy. That's what I think.
Very well, it could be. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
when
definitely send.
When that happened at Randy's place, it was pretty near November, and it was cold. So I don't think that there were any bugs out at that time either.
I've got a few more questions for you. Let's see here. Okay, Tanya asked one. What do when you're out investigating, going through the woods, and you come across a structure? What do you think those structures mean? Are they some type of a blind to watch people? Are they some type of like an emergency shelter for them, or is it some way to mark an area that, okay, if you guys go in this area, this is what we're going to find, or just stay out of here? What do you think they mean?
I think the different structures are serving different purposes. I think X's are a marker, marking, a path that, some people think you're not supposed to cross an X, but the X that I had seen at one point marked a path that went into a portal. And I was able to photograph the portal. I didn't know that's what I was looking at until I looked at the pictures later. But I could see the energy of the path was lighting up, going right underneath that X. So I think that was marking something like a path. But I've seen stick structures that were den-like on my reservation, and I mean really intricately built den-like structures.
Yeah.
And those are definitely dens of some kind. I've seen ones that were made up against a tree with other branches that were placed, and believe the first one I saw like that was in Indiana with Squatchman on his property, and it was near a riverbed, and he felt, and I thought he was right about this, that they were using that as kind of a blind where they'd sit inside of it and wait for animals to come, and then they could just jump out and grab them. So kind of a blind in a way. But, I think that they definitely are communicating with each other with some of those things. Like they are markers of some kind, road signs per se, that we maybe don't understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about those. But there's so many different kinds. And some of them are just natural tree fall, but you can kind of tell the ones that have been really placed.
Yeah.
You can tell when you look. So.
All right. I got 3 more questions, and then I think we'll let you go.
Okay.
This one's from Skidder Operator. He asks, can Sasquatches foresee disasters?
I personally believe that they have psychic abilities. Maybe not all of them, but at least many of them do. I fully believe that. And as a psychic myself, I can foresee disasters. So I believe they can too. As a matter of fact, like, when I started I would have prophetic dreams. And, when you have a prophetic dream, you're like, well, it was a dream. Maybe it was just a dream. But then I would have them over and over and over and over again, which is telling me it's not just a dream. But then I progressed into having waking visions. And then there's no question that you can't go, well, maybe it was a dream because you were awake. Yeah. And, I used to tell my native elder the visions that I would have about what was coming. And I learned, when I first started having visions of things that were not pleasant, it really upset me because I thought I was seeing something that was for sure going to happen. I didn't understand. And I had to come to an understanding that you only see things ahead of time if there's something you can do about it to help in some way to make it not so bad. So when I finally discovered that I'm only seeing things that I can do something about, help something about that. And then it comes with the guidance of what to do different, right? And so I used to tell my elder the visions I was having and the guidance that I determined that it came with it, and he would do whatever he did with it. I didn't know what he did with it, right? And then he passed away, and I still had visions, but I didn't know who to tell them it to anymore. I just didn't tell anybody because why would they want to hear from me? I mean, it wasn't really close with anybody else like that. And so I was at a powwow one day, and his uncle came up to me, and he was looking for me. And he scolded me, and he told me to sit down right there on that cooler. And I'm a pretty tall woman. I'm 5'9", and this man was maybe 4'11", and and he's telling me to sit down right there. So I'm sitting down on this little cooler. Now I'm looking up at him, and he's scolding me, and he said, "We're in trouble." And I was like, "Okay." He goes, "We're in big trouble." And I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "What's up?" And he says, "Nobody's having visions anymore. And if they are, they're not telling anybody about it. We're walking around this world blind, walking right into the bad stuff when we didn't have to." He goes, "We've always known what was coming and what to do to make it not so bad to take a different path. But now we don't know because nobody's having visions anymore. And if they are, they're not telling us."
Yeah. Yeah.
And literally, the people that were standing there were like, "Oh, he called you out big time." And I'm like, "Yeah, I felt totally scolded on that one."
Yeah.
And after he did that, though, when I was having visions about things that were going to happen with the native people, I didn't hesitate anymore. I stomped right in and said, "Here's what's coming, and here's what you're going to do. And you need to make sure that you do this instead of that," and things like that. And so, because I can do it, I'm quite sure that they can. At least some of them can. Just as we say humans can do this or that, we all have gut reactions. We all have gut instincts of knowing something's coming sometimes. Everybody's experienced some of that to some degree. Maybe it's not completely a full-on vision of what's coming, but there are those of us who can, and it is a real thing. And I do believe that some of the Sasquatch definitely have that ability as well.
Awesome. Another question. Do you feel like we will ever be able to scientifically have Bigfoot recognized?
I think that Bigfoot is in charge of that idea.
Me too.
And if they don't want to be known scientifically, they're not going to be. And if they did want to be known scientifically, they would have been already.
Yep. I agree. That's a great question. I mean, a great question and great answer. And the final one, this is coming from Jeff. Oh, that last one was from Steamboat. This one's coming from Jeff, and he is Old Line Cryptids. He's one of the hosts on there. He asked, "What do you think Bigfoot is?"
Well, again, I'm gonna rest on my native background here, and the belief is that he is indigenous to this planet, that he is our big brother, that he looks out for us, and that he's living the more natural way. And as a matter of fact, Bigfoot represents one of the 7 sacred teachings of the grandfathers from my tribe. Now, each one of them is represented by an animal that is known. Love is represented by the eagle. Humility is represented by the wolf. All the 7 teachings are represented by a known animal that exists, that represents that teaching. And honesty is represented by Bigfoot. It's not if there's a Bigfoot. They know, and they have known, that Bigfoot is real, just as real as the wolf or an eagle, to represent one of their 7 sacred teachings, which is like their 10 commandments to Christians. It's a huge sacred thing that it is believed that Bigfoot lives the most honest life.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's just a great answer. Thank you so much for that answer.
You're welcome.
All right, you guys. That's the show. But before we get out of here, Jen, where can people reach out to you if they have a question, if they want to see your content? Now, I did put a link to your show in the description. But is there any place anywhere else? And do you have anything you want to plug? Like any projects coming up, any shows you're going to be speaking at, anything like that?
So I'm on Facebook. I'm a Facebook girl. Jen Cruz, I think .16 is who I am. You'll be able to recognize my picture.
And you're on TikTok too. You're exploding on TikTok.
Am I exploding?
Yes.
I'm totally new to TikTok. I am so new to TikTok. I just recently started playing with it, like not that long ago. Anyway, so I'm on TikTok. I'm on Facebook. I am a Facebook Messenger girl. Really, that is the best way to reach me. Sometimes people try to email me, and I tell them that's not the best way because I get so many emails that they get lost and they go to spam or whatever. And I'm like, for sure, send me a message on Messenger and tell me exactly what it is. If you send me a friend request, I will accept you. Just have to send me a message pointing it out. I have about 3,000 friend requests in there, and every time I try to start going through them, I get sidetracked, and I only do a few of them at a time. So I tell people, if you send me a friend request, please send me a message letting me know that you've done so I can go accept you. And then we have the She-Squatchers page on Facebook. We are on YouTube, She-Squatchers Official. And we do have a show. we're putting them out there as we go now. We're not like a solid day in time right now. Right now, Jenna's on a trip, so we're not doing a show this week, but probably we'll do one next week. But
Awesome.
yeah, so we've got videos and then the lives. So when we do a live, I don't know why they separate them out like that on the YouTube. That's just confusing to me. So check both areas on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe there.
Yep.
And yeah,
I'm subscribed.
are you? That's
I
awesome.
am.
Thank you.
I am. So before you get out of here, I just let you know, I love supporting small businesses, and I have a friend of mine. I don't know if he's still in the chat, but he's in Cadillac, Michigan, and I don't know about you. I don't know how long have you been drinking coffee. I just started drinking coffee because of this guy. He's a coffee roaster out of Cadillac, Michigan, and so I'm just gonna drop this in here real quick. You guys know I love supporting small businesses. If you guys want to get out there and you want to get a good cup of quality coffee or get some coffee beans so you can grind them yourself, you guys check out Owl Eye Coffee Roasters in Cadillac, Michigan. You can see them or check them out at www.owleyecoffee.com. And if you guys do decide to purchase something from them, you guys use the promo code Dano, all capital letters, DANO, at checkout, and you guys will get 15% off of your order. So check them out, owleyecoffee.com.
Hey, I was going to say one other thing.
Sure.
So I'm doing an event in August. It's called Ascension Con in Hastings, Michigan. And it's a completely free event for people to attend. And it's about raising the energy frequency of the people on the planet, right? But they are doing certain paid things on the side that are going to help to pay for the expenses of bringing in speakers like us. And guess who else is going to be there? Jason Kanzi, who we work with on filming the Searching for Sasquatch series, and Ronnie LeBlanc.
Oh, okay.
And so they put together a Bigfoot hunt that people can pay to be part of. And that's going to be used to help pay for our expenses, to take people out on a Bigfoot hunt with all of us. And I thought maybe people here might want to know about that.
Okay, there you go. Send me that information, and I'll also put that in the description as well.
Okay, that sounds
I'll get
good.
that. I'll definitely get that out for you. And Kim asked one more. She asked Kimberly Morgan. She asked a question here: can Bigfoot see time? And if they can, will they do anything to us?
Can they see time? Like,
I don't know. Kim, what do you mean by can they see time?
I feel like Bigfoot is here to support us and to help us grow. I'm going to say that all of the creation stories from Native American tribes, they vary and they're different, but they're all respected as true. But all of the creation stories talk about everything being created here, the animals, the trees, the everything. And the very, very, very last thing that was created on this planet is man. So all of the creation stories talk about how the animals and the trees and all the plants, everything that was already here agreed to look out for us because we're the baby that doesn't know any better yet.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I think that they could probably see a little bit into the future and the past because I can do that. Why couldn't they?
Yeah.
So
All
yeah,
right.
I don't think they're going to do anything to us. I don't think that they are bad per se. Maybe there are some bad apples in the group.
Just like you and I. There are bad people.
Right. And I think as for the majority of them are not. Because if they were, we'd be hearing about, villages being killed. That's what would happen.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, if you could hang out in the lobby just for a moment, I'm going to close up. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show.
Thanks.
And I can't wait to meet you in person. I missed my chance.
Yeah, you did.
I did. You guys, we were in the same room at the same time, and I didn't know it. All right.
There was a lot of people there.
There was. So, Jen, thank you so much. And if you will just hang out, I'll be right back with you.
Good night, everyone.
You guys, amazing. One of my favorites. You guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the questions, the interactions. You guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, you guys, check her out on YouTube. Everything is going to be in the description of this episode. Again, thanks for spending an hour 45 with me and Jen. Thank you so much, you guys. I can't thank you enough. I'm not going to get out of here without saying what my buddy Josh always says. He always says, stay prayed up. And as I always like to say, you guys, remember, a legend always begins with a sighting. You guys take care. I'll see you on the next show.
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?